Okay, so I'm going to walk you through how to fill out this ink lab, and I will be using the Suminagashi lab procedures and work to show you how to do this. So first of all, in your lab sheet, you're going to fill out your group name. So I'm in Double Rainbow, and the period is period 4, and because I'm writing, I'm the scribe. So I'm going to put my name here. So if you're the scribe for your team, make sure you put your name where the scribe is and write down the name for the leader, the sorcerer, the person who's in charge of getting resources, and the keeper of time, the person who is taking care of keeping you on track. So here we'll see the Suminagashi. What I need is sketch paper, water, sumie ink, bamboo brushes, and soapy water. So here's my lab, and all those items are in there. I got myself a cup of clean water here and a paper towel, which isn't on the list, but you'll need a paper towel. So all those are there, and also on the table there should be a Suminagashi history form, and you're going to write that history down here. And here it says Suminagashi is from Japan, about the 12th century. Folklore says that it's an accidental discovery from the Japanese imperial family who submerged the sumi ink paintings in water, and the ink floated to the surface. They placed a piece of paper on the floating ink and preserved the image, and the term Suminagashi means ink floating. So I would write that here where history is, and then here I would record my procedures. So starting in these procedures is taking all your supplies out. So I have my brushes. I'm going to turn this way. I have my brushes, 2 brushes. I have the sumie ink and the cup of soapy water. And I'm going to set this aside with the paper samples. And then I'm going to open the tub of water that we're going to do this lab in. So I'm going to write in here for procedures, use 1 brush for ink and 1 brush for soapy water, and then alternate gently dipping on surface of water. And that way you'll create the marbling, and I'll show you how to do that. So I'm going to take my 1 brush and dip just the end of it in the sumie ink, and then dip the other brush in the soapy water. And I'll go ahead and just gently use the sides of the tub to do this. Gently touch the surface, and you'll see the ink spreading. And do the same with the soap, and just alternate back and forth. And you can see that I'm holding the brush there gently so that the ink spreads. And doing this again, just dipping and alternating. And one more time. I'm going to show you with this one that you can do multiple dots, not just one, of the soap. Maybe on the edges a little bit before I swirl the ink with the end of the brush. And then when I'm satisfied, I'm going to get the sheet of white paper and just kind of drop that on top and let it soak in. It's okay if you get a little bit up there. So while that's soaking in, you're going to wait for the pattern to show on the other side. In my procedures, I would write after marbling swirls with the end of brush. Drop paper on ink for print. Okay, so those are my procedures, and then my observations are if I held the brush down longer on the surface, I would get a bigger ink circle. And other observations would be what else worked well, other things that didn't work well. So I'll show you non-examples. So what I'm going to do now is just kind of rinse the ink off and flip it over, rinse it off some more, and look at my pattern. So I've got this beautiful marbling pattern right there. And I'm just going to set that aside on a drying piece of paper. And while that's happening, I will show you a non-example of what not to do. So I've got the soap and the ink again, and some people I've noticed just kind of dunk the brush into the water, and as you can see, it sinks to the bottom, and it doesn't sit, or it doesn't float on the surface like it's supposed to, so you don't really get that effect of the marbling. So don't do that. Don't just dunk it in there. Just be real gentle and touch the surface of the water with the ink. And then you can write there on your observations. Don't dunk. Ink sinks if not delicate. And touching surface only. So that's one observation. So you need to talk to each other while you're doing the lab so that you can collect data. Conclusion, let's see, your conclusions would be what worked well, how did it turn out, was this a lab that you enjoyed doing, was it too messy, did it use too many supplies? So those are what you would fill out in the conclusion. The scribe would write that down. Everyone would contribute their comments into each column, and then the keeper of time, you make sure everyone is done and cleaned up and setting up for the next team to come by. So I'm just going to rinse these off. Make sure you reform the tips of the brushes and dump this into the sink and get new water.